In the cold grip of October 1944, 2nd Lieutenant Fred L. Brewer Jr., a Tuskegee Airman, vanished into the fog of war. The day was bleak, the air heavy with the anticipation of conflict. Fred was one of 57 fighters. Their mission, a daring raid over enemy targets in the industrial heartland of Regensburg, Germany. As they soared through the threatening skies, each pilot was acutely aware of the danger that lurked in the shadows of the clouds. The Tuskegee Airmen, an elite group of African-American military pilots, were known for their courage and tenacity. Fred, in his early 20s, was no exception. He was a beacon of bravery, a symbol of resilience. But on that fateful day, he was merely a young man, piloting his aircraft through a storm of uncertainty. As they navigated the hostile skies, the squadron was returning to their base at Ramitelli Airfield in Italy. The weather was unforgiving, the cloud cover dense and impenetrable. It was within this shroud of obscurity that Fred was last seen. The pilots on the mission reported a chilling sight: Fred's aircraft attempting to claw its way out of the cloud cover. They watched as it stalled, spiraling out of control into the abyss below. It was a sight that would haunt them for years to come. Then, just like that, Fred was gone, swallowed by the clouds, lost to the unforgiving tempest. His comrades searched for him, their eyes straining against the harsh weather, but it was to no avail. Fred had vanished, his plane disappearing into the cloud cover as if swallowed by a monstrous beast. In the ensuing silence, uncertainty and fear gripped the hearts of the pilots. One of their own was missing, his fate unknown. The shock of his disappearance echoed through the ranks, a chilling reminder of the cruel uncertainty of war. Fred was just 23 years old when he vanished, leaving a chilling void in the lives of his comrades and family. His absence would linger, a haunting specter of the unknown, a mystery that would remain unsolved for nearly 80 years. For nearly 8 decades, the fate of Fred L. Brewer Jr. remained a haunting mystery. A promising young pilot, vanishing into the murky clouds of war, leaving behind a trail of questions and a family grappling with the pain of not knowing. In the wake of Fred's disappearance, the skies above Ramitelli Airfield seemed to hold their breath. Each incoming flight sparked a flicker of hope that would swiftly die out. The returning pilots brought back tales of the mission, of a brave airman trying to climb out of the turbulent cloud cover only to stall and spin out of control. But of Fred himself, there was no sign. His plane was lost to the vast Italian landscape, swallowed by the very clouds he had tried to conquer. His family, meanwhile, was left in a limbo of uncertainty. Every knock on the door, every ring of the phone, every rustle of the mail stirred a desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, there would be news of Fred. But the years rolled on and the hope began to fade, replaced by an aching void. The war ended, but Fred's story remained untold. His remains were recovered from a civilian cemetery in Italy by US personnel, a silent testament to his final journey, but even in death, he was nameless. An unknown soldier in a foreign land, his identity was as elusive as the circumstances of his disappearance. The mystery of Fred's fate stretched on, years turning into decades. His family mourned, but without closure. The question of what had happened to him hung in the air, a ghost that refused to rest. His name became a whisper in the annals of history, a symbol of the countless soldiers who had vanished in the fog of war. The search for answers continued, a beacon of hope burning low, but never quite extinguished. The mystery of Fred's fate was as dense as the cloud cover he disappeared into. But as we will discover, the truth has a way of emerging even from the darkest of clouds. In the summer of 2022, a glimmer of hope pierced the decades-old mystery. As the sun blazed high in the azure Italian sky, a solemn team of US personnel labored away, their task to exhume the remains of an unknown soldier buried in an unmarked grave in a civilian cemetery. The air was thick with anticipation and reverence, a silent acknowledgement of the significance of their mission. The remains were carefully transported across the Atlantic, back to the land the unknown airman had once called home. In a sterile, hushed lab, a team of experts began the painstaking process of DNA extraction. The stakes were high. This wasn't just about identifying the remains of a forgotten hero. It was about bringing closure to a family that had waited nearly 80 years for answers. Enter Clement Brewer, the second cousin of the missing Tuskegee Airman, Fred L. Brewer Jr. He had willingly provided a sample of his own DNA 2 years prior, in the hopes that it might one day help identify his lost cousin. As Clement waited for the results, he couldn't help but feel a deep connection to the past, to the young man who had bravely served his country and paid the ultimate price. The wait for the DNA results was agonizing. Each passing day was a reminder of the years that had slipped away since Fred's disappearance, the silence that had shrouded his fate. But all that was about to change. The day finally arrived when a package was delivered to Clement's doorstep. Enclosed was a letter, crisp and official, bearing the emblem of the Defense POW MIA accounting agency. Clement's heart pounded in his chest as he carefully unfolded the document. The words he had been waiting for were there, inked onto the page in solemn black. The DNA results were in, and the answer was waiting to be revealed. A moment of silence hung in the air. It was as if time itself held its breath, waiting for the revelation that would close a chapter in history and bring peace to a hero's memory. On August 10th, 2023, the chilling mystery of Second Lieutenant Fred L. Brewer Jr.'s fate was finally brought to light. The results of the DNA test had arrived, and the suspense was palpable. It was a moment frozen in time, a moment when the universe held its breath. The DNA samples, those tiny strands of life essence, had spoken. They whispered the name of the man whose remains had lain unidentified for nearly 8 decades, Fred L. Brewer Jr., the fallen Tuskegee Airman who had vanished into the fog of war, had finally been found. The confirmation sent ripples across time and space, a chilling echo from the past that reverberated in the hearts of his surviving family members. Imagine the bewilderment, the shock, the profound sense of relief that swept through Fred's second cousin, Clement Brewer. His DNA had unlocked the identity of the remains, solving a mystery that had spanned generations. Very proud, he declared, his voice trembling with emotion. Proud to have been a part of this heroic revelation, proud to be connected to such a heroic figure in American history. Picture the package arriving at Clement's parents' house, the unassuming parcel that held the key to their family's past. The story of Fred, the Tuskegee Airman they hadn't heard of until then. A story that stirred a deep sense of awe and wonder. "This is special," Clement had exclaimed, the realization of their extraordinary family legacy dawning on him. Now, the family has closure. The phantom of uncertainty that had hovered over them for decades had been dispelled. Brenda Brewer, another second cousin, said it best. But this time, this burial is different. It has everything with it. Indeed, it was not just a burial, it was a homecoming, a celebration of a hero's life, a resolution to a haunting tale. Fred L. Brewer Jr., the Tuskegee Airman who disappeared in the fog of war, was no longer a ghost of the past. His memory, once shrouded in mystery, now shines with the honor and dignity he deserves. And so, the chilling tale of the missing airman comes to a close, leaving us with a profound sense of awe and respect for the heroes who risk everything for their country. Nearly 80 years after his disappearance, Fred L. Brewer Jr. was finally laid to rest. An air of solemn respect hung over the Salisbury National Cemetery in Charlotte. The hallowed grounds, a final resting place for many a brave soul, was about to welcome home another of its own. The military service was as dignified as it was emotional, punctuated by the sharp report of a 21-gun salute that echoed across the tranquil landscape. Fred's family stood in quiet reflection, the weight of the moment bearing down on them. Their faces, etched with a mix of sorrow, pride, and relief, told a story of a long-awaited closure. The sense of loss was palpable, but so too was the sense of resolution. The mystery that had loomed over their family for decades had finally found its end. Their beloved Fred, who had vanished into the throes of war, had been returned to them, his heroism forever etched in the annals of history. Clement Brewer, the man whose DNA had unlocked this mystery, stood tall, his heart swelling with pride. "You're proud to be connected to heroism in the United States," he had said. And in this moment, as he watched the flag-draped coffin of his late cousin being lowered into the ground, his words resonated with a profound truth. This was not just a day of mourning, but a day of tribute, a day of honor. Fred L. Brewer Jr., the Tuskegee Airman, had finally come home. As the ceremony drew to a close, the family gathered around the fresh mound of earth, their faces reflecting the setting sun. It was a poignant scene, a testament to the enduring legacy of a man who had given his all for his country. His cousin Brenda summed it up perfectly. But this time, this burial is different. It has everything with it. Fred L. Brewer Jr., the Tuskegee Airman, who vanished into the fog of war, found his final resting place, bringing a chilling chapter of history to a close.